this is the first class. So this is the first class, right? So I encourage all of you to just focus on the macro things and macro themes because, sorry, yeah. So because this is a first class, I want you to slowly get into the process of reading newspaper. I don't want to dump all the data on your head on one day and get things done. We will focus on one or two topics in the initial days. Once you develop concrete idea about them, we will move on to next topics. Yes. So we will try all the ways. So those who can type, you are encouraged to type. Those who can unmute and ask me questions, you are encouraged to do so. Now, as all of you can see, the most important thing that is happening in the news is Taliban issue, right? The Afghanistan issue. Yes. So those who have read today's newspaper, apart from Afghanistan issue, what are the most important issues that you have seen in today's newspaper?
So I'm Pratyusha. I have seen Financial Inclusive Index released by RBI.
Okay. Nice.
So, and I also noticed that for the first time, the Collegium of India has selected three women.
Woman. Okay. Good. Now, so
Kalyan, sir,
yeah, yes, please.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but can we please, can you be please visible while you're teaching?
Yes, we can arrange that probably from today. Sorry, tomorrow.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Right. No, it's not an issue, but I thought screen sharing will occupy the entire thing. Yeah, we will arrange that as well. No issues. Yeah. Again. Okay. So sorry. Yes. So when we start anything, before that, please understand, not every student is on the same page. So sometimes what we teach in the class might be totally basic. Like for example, your knowledge level might be here, right? So some of your peers might be here, and many of you might be fresh graduates just out of engineering college without any clue on what is happening in Afghanistan and all those things. So we have to make sure that everybody is on the same page, right? Only then we can grow collectively, or else it will be spoon feeding. So if you have any question, no matter how trivial it appears in your mind, make sure you ask it in the class, because if you feel like others might laugh at me or others might think negatively about me and all such doubts, it is not going to help you grow. So the most important thing you need to know is to grow collectively, right? So don't ridicule if someone is asking a small question. At the same time, don't assume I know everything, right? No matter how much we know, we still have a lot of things to learn, right? So first of all, I will give you a brief outline on the today's Afghanistan issue, and then we will try to enter into the newspaper. Yes. So first of all, why Afghanistan is important for us? The most obvious answer being GS paper to IR, right? That's useful in your mains preparation, GS paper to IR. Apart from that, you can split any topic into two ways, that is either for prelims or for mains. So how is it useful for prelims? Trivial data again, like what are the countries that share boundary with Afghanistan? Okay, or does India actually share a boundary with Afghanistan? In reality, we do share, but it is not actually in reality. We are not connecting because of Pak occupied Kashmir. So that is why there is a dashed line. So such kind of trivial data will be ingrained to you. It will become your second nature once you start seeing these things in a daily basis. Next, apart from this, we will have more in-depth knowledge once your PSIR classes start on how Chabahar port is very important for India. So as you can see, India, Pakistan and Afghanistan are in continuity, right? Most of the times you must have heard something called as encircling of India. That is China trying to circle India. Okay. But in reality, Pakistan have the same fear. Why? Pakistan is covered by India on the one side, Iran on the one side. If Afghanistan is also going into the hands of India, then Pakistan is encircled. So that is the fear of Pakistan. So having this fear continuously in mind. Yes, please. So somebody said something. Please mute everyone. Yeah. Okay. So Pakistan has continuously had this fear that, you know, India will make friends with Pakistan, Iran and Afghanistan, and one day encircle me, and that will create a lot of problems for me. So that is why Pakistan has always gave its support to a group called as Taliban. Taliban wouldn't have survived without the patronage of Pakistan. So you can understand the 20-year investment that Pakistan has made is paying off today. Okay, that is the first and most important thing you need to understand in understanding the entire issue, that Pakistan spent 20 years patiently nurturing all these Taliban troops, giving them funds, giving them weapons, and maintaining its control over Taliban. Now that America is going away from Afghanistan, the entire show belongs to Pakistan. So you understand why when we discuss about Afghanistan, it's more actually about Pakistan. Okay, and what are the ramifications from Indian point of view? And most of the times, articles or YouTube videos you see are in the news channels. There might be a lot of problems, but I mean, there might be a lot of confusion. But be very clear, we are writing UPSC exam, which is an exam of India. So everything will be seen from Indian perspective. So there is a idiom in Telugu. That means when you come to my house, what gift are you bringing? When I come to your house, what gift are you giving me? So the same thing, right? So what is there for India? What can we gain from India? Sorry, what can we gain for India? So everything you see should be seen through the prism of India. Okay. So before I answer your question about who are Taliban, okay, so don't get confused and scared with this particular diagram. It's a very simple thing. It's visible, right? All the words, all the lines are visible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Fine. Right. So please understand, I will tell you a very simple story. You must have seen Hollywood movies, right? Rambo 1992. Sylvester Stallone. If you have seen that movie, you will understand the story very easily. If not, it's very simple. The thing is, there is a country called as Russia. In 1990s, in 1980s, it has attacked Afghanistan. Okay, when in 1990s Russia was attacking Afghanistan, okay, there were thousands of tribal groups, okay, if not hundreds of tribal groups, right? There were hundreds of tribal groups fighting off these Russian soldiers. Then came USA. What did USA do? USA gave weapons, money, training, and all these things to these tribal groups. One of these tribal groups is nothing but Taliban. Okay, so it is actually USA which created this Taliban group to counter Russia. Okay, you know the Cold War between USA and Russia. Yes, USA gave a lot of money to these tribal groups. Okay, and these tribal groups were trained, they were weaponized, and they were used against Russia. So USA created Taliban more or less. They trained them, and Russians were driven off from Afghanistan. That means after a time, Russia stopped invading Afghanistan. Okay, so all these mujahideen, all these soldiers who were trained by USA were left off in Afghanistan. Okay, and they didn't had any other work to do. That is when they had a concept, that is Islamic Emirate, right? So you must have heard about a group called as ISIS. If you haven't, totally fine. It is also a terrorist group, just like Al Qaeda, ISIS. So all these groups have one dream, that is to create a Islamic Emirate, Islamic Caliphate. Okay, it's a concept where they see Islamic rule will prevail. So that is exactly what Taliban has in mind when we are talking about Taliban. So the simple background story is America gave weapons to tribals. One of the tribal group is Taliban, and they fought Russians. After Russians were driven away, they turned their eyes towards spreading or controlling Afghanistan. Now, one more small story you need to understand here is this. Afghanistan is a very, very poor country. More than 75% of the Afghanistans are considered as below poverty line. Okay, and its literacy rate is also around 30%. So you can understand it's a very poor country, it's a very weak country in human capital wise, and it doesn't have any leadership, and there is huge amount of corruption. Yes, so for all these reasons, it is very easy to control Afghanistan through violence. That is what Taliban is doing. Okay, now, so that's the background story. So as I have told you, Pakistan has funded Taliban. It has maintained the Afghanistan's control nicely. Now that USA is moving away from Afghanistan, what are the ramifications to India? Yes. So please observe very carefully. There is a triangle here, though it's not a perfect triangle. You can understand Russia, Pakistan, and China. Right? Can you see the triangle in the red color lines?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if you see carefully, two of them were considered to be very good friends of India 1 year ago or 2 years ago also. Russia is an evergreen friend of India. China had a very good relationship with India. We had a very good trade with China. See, Pakistan is enemy number one. We all know that. Even Prime Minister reiterated that in the Independence Day speech. So who in India consider Russia and China as good friends. But now what is happening? The international geopolitics is changing so rapidly that these three countries are coming together and forming a nexus. Okay, that's a very dangerous scenario for geopolitics. Why? Again, it takes a lot of time to explain, but simply understand the story. We have three major players, that is Russia, China, and Pakistan. They are combining, collectively coming together. And as you can see from this particular box, okay, Pakistan has total control on Afghanistan. Now, how is this all relevant to UPSC, and how is this very relevant to India? Now, we had a direct road to Afghanistan, which was closed by Pakistan. So we went to Iran, from Iran to Afghanistan, from Afghanistan to Central Asia. This was the basic plan of India. From India to Iran, Iran to Afghanistan, Afghanistan to Central Asian countries. That is how India is supposed to do the trade. Right? Now, the entire scenario has changed once Afghanistan has fallen. You remember the first line I have told you? Pakistan's fear of encircling. So, because this road is closed, this entire road is closed, India no longer have a trade route to Central Asian countries. That is the first loss of India. First loss is trade. Second loss is internal security threat. Pakistan will send all these mujahideens towards India and try to destabilize India. Okay, these two are major important issues that you have to see from Indian perspective. One is India lost trade to Central Asian countries. India is losing or India is facing a great security threat. And those who don't know, Afghanistan is also having a lot of drug production. Okay, all the drug money will be used against terrorism. Yes, so all these are security threats. Apart from this, China and Russia and Pakistan will become very, very close friends. That nexus will be very hard to break, and that also affects India, because just imagine, you have a headache, right? It's not too severe, but at the same time, you cannot totally focus on your work. Just like that, if a country is having a border dispute with any of its neighbor, okay, it is a headache for that country. India cannot totally peacefully focus on trade. India cannot focus on anything as long as the border issue with China continue, and also we have a border issue with Pakistan. Collectively, we call it as two and a half front war. If India is like, if you take India, on the right hand side we have China, left hand side we have Pakistan, and the third one is internal security threat like radicalization. Okay, so collectively 1, 2 and half. So it is called as 2.5 front war. It may never happen. We may never actually have a war with Pakistan or China and internal security threat all at 3 times. But continuously worrying that I will have a headache and carrying a Saradon in your pocket is a very, very big problem, right? So that is exactly what is happening to India. Apart from this, now we also have to worry about the cross-border terrorism, the drug money that is coming into India, the drugs that are coming into India. So you understand the scenario, right? India cannot sleep peacefully. At the same time, is India that in a disadvantageous position? We have seen all the negatives, right? A triangle being formed here, we are worried about it. Drugs, we are worried. Border issues, we are worried. So only issues, no advantages. India is not the country that we were in 2001. So what are the other sides of the coin? The other side of the coin is very simple. Our friendship with USA is increasing. So as Pakistan is moving towards China and Russia is coming closer to China, right? Our friendship with USA is getting stronger. Why? All the money, all the focus, all the money, all the focus, all the energies that were spent on Afghanistan will now be diverted towards Indo-Pacific region. Why Indo-Pacific region? To control China. Okay, so all the energies that were invested till now on Afghanistan will be helping in Indo-Pacific, which is a very good thing for India because Indo-Pacific is in our backyard. And also we are controlling China, which is a win-win scenario for India and USA. Apart from this, our ties with India and USA are getting stronger. So earlier we were dependent on Russia for what? Weapons. Now we are getting the same weapons from USA. One problem is closed, new door is opened. So we are not losing much. And at the same time, there is one more story. See, again, I am telling you like a story because it's a very first class, right? We will discuss all the questions. I mean, so I'm telling it like a story because you will remember stories. We mostly remember things in stories. So India is gaining something, right? So friendship of USA is gained. Also, we have made sure that the friendship between USA and Pakistan is not so good. How? There is something called as Financial Action Task Force. Don't worry about the names or acronyms, just focus. The friendship between USA and Pakistan is severely damaged by India by imposing sanctions on Pakistan. We used terms like Ivy League of terrorism, hub of terrorism, den of terrorism. So we made sure that everybody sees Pakistan like a terror hub. Okay, we made sure that Pakistan is a terror hub and everybody sees Pakistan as a terror hub. So if a Pakistan goes to USA and say, we are so innocent, please give us some money, we will build schools in Afghanistan, not a single American is going to believe, right? So the funds that used to come from USA are no longer going to come to Pakistan, right? So in that way, we have destroyed the friendship between USA and Pakistan. We are making sure that our friendship between India and USA is stronger. Also, we are importing weapons from USA. So these advantages are there. And I will tell you the most important thing, the present political government, I mean, the present political setup in India is not afraid to escalate the cost of war. What do I mean by that? In 2000s, let's say somebody is coming from Pakistan. He crossed the India border. Okay, so cross-border terrorism. We used to kill them, nothing was done. But now Prime Minister, what has he done? He has done something called a surgical strike. Okay, first surgical strike done, Pakistan couldn't do much. Second surgical strike happened, Pakistan destroyed our flight. At the same time, we destroyed more flights of Pakistan and we killed hundreds of terrorists. So that means for every terrorist that Pakistan is willing to send to India, Pakistan should also be willing to spend hundreds of crores to fight the aftermath. Okay, that means if Pakistan is doing something like 26/11 in today's India, Pakistan should be ready with thousands of crores to back up something of called a surgical strike or aircraft strike. So Pakistan is not in a position to afford such kind of things with India. I will tell you why. India's economy is $3 trillion. Okay, which is 10 times larger than Pakistan. So if Pakistan is trying to do any adventures now, cross-border terrorism and all those things, it needs to be ready to have a huge economic losses. So I don't think they will do any such kind of adventures. Apart from this, our military capacity has increased many folds, probably 10x. We have better satellites, we have drones, we have better aircrafts. So we have every measure to control Pakistan in every term, and border capacity has increased. Yes, Article 370 is removed. So Pakistan no longer use that the drama of Kashmiris are being attacked by India and all such things. So the India in 2021 is no longer India in 2001. So we are in a very good position to take all the advantages. There are some issues which can be handled in the long run, but advantages are also there. So in a sense, India is ready. Yes. So this is the shortest story that I can tell you for the first class, at least, because most of you don't even know what is CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or what is arms trade. So it's totally fine if you don't understand anything, but at least you will remember the story, right? Yes, again, yes, if you have any more questions, please let me know. I mean, macro story we will discuss. Always remember, the first line in international relations is this: there are no permanent enemies, there are no permanent friends. Yes, there are no permanent enemies, there are no permanent friends. And it's pure common sense. Always remember that whenever there is a money flow, that means if money is flowing between India and China and India and Russia, no country is willing to go for escalation. Okay, that means they want to poke you, they want to hurt you, but not to the point where they will also be hurt. I will tell you simply. Understand this. See, again, it becomes a IR class rather than a newspaper class. That is why I don't want to do that. Russia is a $2 trillion economy. Russia have a lot of sanctions. Russia don't have any other income apart from oil plus weapons. Okay, you don't want to attack that one country which always keeps buying weapons from you. If you do that, you are losing revenue, right? Point number 2. China and India have no less than $100 billion trade, right? So we are 1.3 billion population, 1.4 actually, 1.4 billion population, hungry for development, hungry for Chinese phones, and hungry for Chinese technology, right? So we don't want to lose such kind of customer base. That too for what? For a 300 billion economy called as Pakistan. No country is that foolish. So though they might form a nexus, okay, they may not take it to the level of wars. Okay, I hope you understand the difference, because Russia and China have money interest in India. Okay, whereas Pakistan has nothing but election interest. Whenever somebody wants to win election in Pakistan, they will say India is the enemy, right? So if anybody wants to win election in India, what do they have to do? They have to continuously go and say Pakistan is the enemy. So it's like a quid pro quo. As long as that happens, yes, no major issues will be there. Again, please remember, this is your very first class, and I totally understand your doubts. But the more your knowledge gains about how Russia and Indian relations are very good in the long run, or how China and India relations are good, or how the term no permanent enemies, no permanent friends means it is. Okay, all of you are not understanding this. When I said in the initial class, the country that attacked Russia is who? Sorry, Afghanistan is what? Russia, right? Now they are forming a nexus against whom? The country that supported you, that is USA. So one time friend is now dead enemy. Yes. So in that way, over a decade, like over 1 decade or 2 decades of time, these things will keep on changing. Yes. So shall we go to the newspapers now? I mean, it will make more sense, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So first of all, this is today's Hindu. Next. Remember, please don't make notes for the first 3 months. जी आप IAS है. Okay, right. Okay, so where was I? Please don't make notes for the first 3 months. You might be having 10,000 doubts. Please hold. Just read newspapers for the sake of reading. I will explain to you the logics and how to remember them. So we are seeing an article called as Taliban owes to honor women rights with Islamic law. So why is Taliban making such statements? We have to read between the lines. What is there in the article is important, but why Taliban is doing this? First of all, Taliban is a radical group, right? If they occupy something with force, okay, no country in the right mind will recognize them. When you don't recognize a country called as Afghanistan, ruled by Taliban, you won't get any funds, right? So you won't get any funds. So for the very reason, Taliban is doing nothing short of what we call as PR. Okay, that means media management. So what is the first criticism against Taliban? They are barbaric. They mistreat women. They don't give respect to women. They don't allow women to get educated. Yes, they don't even allow women to roam freely without a male company. So such restrictions will be limited, and Taliban is nothing but Stone Age. So to counter all such arguments, Taliban is doing PR. Okay, you are the most innocent person in the world if you believe even 1% of what they are saying, right? So please be very clear. Don't take Taliban for face value, because their ideology is created around hardline interpretation of Islam, and suddenly they cannot stop being hardline, right? That's the most important distinction we need to understand. The Taliban is trying to legitimize their overthrow of the power. Okay, and the international community should be very clear in not giving the legitimacy to the Taliban. Okay, let them conduct elections. If people choose to vote for Taliban and Taliban give up the drug trade and terrorism, then yeah, India can recognize the Taliban as a legitimate country or a legitimate government. Until then, it's highly recommended that you don't fall into the trap to believe Taliban. There is no such thing as good Taliban or bad Taliban. Taliban is Taliban. They follow a very hardline stand of Islam. They are not good for anyone, right? And you have to remember Magab quotes like terrorism anywhere is a threat to anywhere, right? So you might be asking, sir, what will happen if Taliban is a terrorist hub? Okay, what will happen if Pakistan, if Afghanistan is like a terrorism hub? You have heard something called as internet, right? Automatically radicalization will happen. So they will open call centers for terrorism. So anybody sitting anywhere who wants to get radicalized can call that call center or talk to them in Telegram, Signal, encrypted apps, get radicalized, and then they will do attacks in your own country, what we call as lone wolf attack, right? So we don't want coaching centers to be opened in terrorism anywhere, right? And Afghanistan can become that particular hub. So terrorism anywhere is a threat to peace everywhere. So someone sitting in Sri Lanka can get trained from someone from Syria, and he can do a bomb blast. That is exactly what happened, and that killed 300 people, Easter bombings. So as long as you have these terrorist hubs officially, and you can argue that they might be there in Afghanistan, India, or USA also, but the thing is, giving them free hand is one thing, controlling them is one thing, right? So I hope I made my point very clear.
Yes, sir.
So any questions on your understanding about the Taliban scenario right now? And one more thing, always remember, no matter what you understand, you don't write everything that I say in the answers, right? You have to filter it. You will filter it. You will learn that. But the most important thing to remember here is Minister of External Affairs, Ministry of External Affairs, MEA. Ministry of External Affairs will have a spokesperson, or the minister himself, or foreign secretary. These three people will give some statements. Those statements will have good quotations. You have to use them verbatim. You have to take them as it is and write in your answers. So that is official stand of India. Okay, so that is where everything stops. The rest all is analysis. Okay, clear. And point number two is these are called as slow burn topics, right? What we call as sim, right? Mummy will tell you keep the stove on sim. So in the same way, these are slow burn topics. That means they will keep on burning slowly. You cannot make notes out of them overnight, or those things don't come to a closure overnight. So last time when Taliban was in power, it took almost a decade for them to perish. So we don't know how long it is going to take now. So follow them for 6 months. Okay, no major changes will happen. America said this, India said this, Taliban replied, Pakistan have acted like this. So it will be like a daily basis we will read about them. But after 6 months, we will make a 1-page notes. That will be more than enough to write a answer. But by following them daily, this 1-page notes will be permanently fixed in your mind. So whenever I say slow burn, please remember, follow them daily. Okay. Yes. Next. In 2008, we have lost an Indian Foreign Service officer in Afghanistan. Okay, when Taliban was reviving back then. So now that Indian government has brought back all our embassy staff peacefully. So it's a win-win scenario. Okay. Again, as I have mentioned this class, so I'm not going in depth line by line. I'm just giving you macro picture on how to see the newspaper. So Supreme Court has given a notice to the center on pleas alleging snooping. So this is about the Pegasus issue. So how many of you have a clue about what is Pegasus? Yes. It is spyware. Okay. If you don't know, it's totally fine. Let's assume today is ground zero. This is the day I have started reading newspapers. Apart from my academic books, for the first time, I am listening all these things. It's totally understandable. Okay. Right. So recently, if you have seen the news or TV and all those things, there is a huge cry that opposition political parties leaders and some journalists were spied allegedly by certain entities. We don't know who spied on whom, but there is something called as Pegasus, and some leaders like Rahul Gandhi and journalists, some journalists were spied. So all of them went to Supreme Court saying there is something called as right to privacy. So for UPSC point of view, the most important thing here is, if someone spies on me, that is not a problem. If that someone is not government of India, and that too not in the rules and regulations, then that is my violation of privacy, right? Right to privacy is a fundamental right. So the famous case being Puttaswamy versus Union of India. Remember that name, Puttaswamy versus Union of India is like 1,000 times you will hear this name. That is right to privacy case. Because my privacy is violated, I can directly go to Supreme Court and ask Supreme Court to give some solution to this problem. So that is why Supreme Court is entertaining this particular issue. So once the case goes to the hearing, we will read a lot about it. So again, we will take up Pegasus one day, just like Afghanistan chart. We will create a chart and try to understand what is Pegasus, the basics. We will go line by line. Next. I'm not sure whether this article is there in Hyderabad edition or not, but sometimes the caste issues and such things will always be in the news. Keep an eye, don't need to make any notes, just follow up what is the issue, because in this country there are a lot of fault lines. So what are fault lines? If you read geography or something like that, you can understand. Let's imagine two tables side by side, right? There is no gap between these two tables and they cannot be separated. Now imagine two more tables. There is a fault between these two tables. So that is what we call as fault line, right? So upper caste, Dalit, Hindu, Muslim, Hindu, Christian, or Sikh, Christian, Hindu, Muslim, like this, anything, there will always be some historical fault lines. Okay. Normally what happens is, once these fault lines start, okay, they can never be patched perfectly. And people in power, people in power, most of the times will try to exploit these fault lines. Okay. Unless there is a gap, you cannot exploit that gap. You cannot, it takes a lot of energy to create a gap between these two things, but it takes a very less amount of energy to rupture these two things. For example, I am A, okay, there is one more person B. Let's say I am a Muslim, he is a Hindu, he has a good land, right? I have a land adjoining to his land. I asked him to sell that land, he didn't sell it. Okay, then what will I do? The land issue can be converted into a communal issue, right? And it will flare up into such a big thing, and sometimes it is exploited, right? So in this way, you can take a Dalit and a upper caste fellow. So same times, sometimes, not every time, I'm not generalizing. This is how the system works. A normal domestic issue or a neighbor issue can also be converted into a communal issue very quickly. So please understand, whenever you read newspapers, don't jump to conclusions, don't jump to assumptions, always go for empirical data, facts. Okay. Yes. Now, those who don't know, this section is called as editorial section. This section is called as opinion section. Okay. So opinion is of Mr. Narayanan. Okay. Opinion can be right, left, center. It can be critical of government, or it can be bhajan of government, or it can be purely neutral. Okay, there are only three kinds of articles. One is totally critical of government, like without common sense they will be criticizing government. The next one is purely bhajan of government, that means patronizing government without any common sense. The last one is balanced approach. They will praise where government is doing right things, they will criticize where government is doing the wrong things. So it's your responsibility to fall in the balanced position without falling into the trap. Just because you have read an article which is totally critical of government doesn't mean you have to directly jump into the conclusion that government is wrong. At the same time, if someone comes and says government is doing all the right things, please don't fall into that trap also. There will always be something that is missing. So you have to have that balanced approach, because questions will be in the line of critically analyze. You won't see a UPSC question which asks why government of India is always right? What is the government policy in tackling Afghanistan? What are the issues? Then you have to write some advantages, some negatives. So by following this balanced approach, you will have some positive points, some negative points, and that has to be done from day one. You have to adapt that thing from day one. Only then you will be able to write very good answers. So from that point of view, you have to be balanced. You cannot totally take government's line. At the same time, you cannot be totally too critical of the government. There is a healthy line where you constructively criticize. What is constructive criticism? That means I want government to do better for everyone, not for my own sake. That is constructive criticism. I am constructing something. Yes, emotional criticism is bad. I just because I like Prime Minister Modi doesn't mean I have to do bhajan. Okay, I'm being very critical today in the first class itself, because these three kinds of articles will be coming to you on a daily basis. It's our responsibility to cut the noise and bring them to a balanced opinion. So If you take Mr. Narayanan articles, I think it falls more or less in the sphere of balance. He's not nowhere critical of government. He's not at all talking about anything illogically. He's purely based on facts. So such kind of articles are called as balanced articles. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if you see this particular article, what is the takeaway from this entire article? I have told you a story, right? You have read this article earlier before coming to the class. So after listening to the story, and what about article distorting the facts? So again, if it is a fact, sun rises in the, you see, I can say something like this: sun rises anywhere, but sun does not rise in north, south, or west. Okay, automatically I'm telling sun rises in the east, right? In the sense, if you listen to a fact, okay, make it a pillar. Fact again, how? Let's say India's connectivity to Afghanistan is not under India's control. That's a fact. If someone comes and says, India has a direct access to Afghanistan, that is not true, right? Because government of India itself has accepted that Pak occupied Kashmir has taken away India's land. So I have to take an example of what you mean by distorting the facts, right? So, but most of the times facts cannot be manipulated. Opinion can be manipulated. I can view stories around facts, but not fact itself. I'm a fan of Sherlock Holmes. You must have remembered that particular quote, right? Whatever is remaining, however improbable, is fact. I cannot change that. Opinion woven around the facts can be always be manipulated. Again, Raghunath, I think we can discuss more articles. You will come to a conclusion how to deal with such scenarios. Yes. So if you have any particular example, do message me. I will be happy to answer that question. And we will move on to this particular article, right? So in this particular article, we have to understand America has invested trillions of money, like $1 trillion of money, thousands of soldiers, and it has lost around 60,000 Afghanistan policemen and army people have died, right, for an USS war. So when such huge amount of human lives loss has happened, what is there for India? How can India do something about it? The thing is, see, okay, so I understand you. I will ask a very simple question. So India is supposed to negotiate with Taliban people, right? So whom should I negotiate with? Taliban have 10 groups, right? There is a group supported by China. There is a group supported by Pakistan. There is a group which is neutral. There is a group which does not have any power but is pro-India, right? Which of these groups will be there 6 months down the line, right? So if I talk to, let's say, a group which is supported by Pakistan today, if that group does not win, but a group controlled by China wins, okay, won't I be, punished for that? Yes. So in that sense, India is very wise in not negotiating with Taliban groups outrightly, because we have to adapt this policy of wait and watch. Wait and watch, so that in 6 months down the line, we will actually know who is the boss, right? Then if we start negotiating with that boss, it makes more sense. Second thing, I want to talk to Taliban, but Taliban does not want to talk to me. Why? Pakistan does not want Taliban to talk. Then how can I force Taliban to talk to me? If you remember the chart, Taliban is heavily dependent on Pakistan for funding weapons. So if Taliban starts negotiating with India, Taliban might be punished by Pakistan by not supplying money or weapons. Then I cannot give money or weapons to Taliban, right? Then there won't be any difference between me and Pakistan, right? So considering all these things, it's very wise strategy that India has taken by not negotiating with Taliban, because I don't know whom to talk to. Second thing, I am also not sure how many of them are willing to reciprocate. Third thing, if someone is reciprocating, he may or may not be powerful. Even if he's not powerful, then what is the point in talking to him? Yes. So, and remember, all these are career seasoned diplomats. That means they are the ones who worked in the ground level. They know the ground realities, and after all these things, they are suggesting why we should take a wait and watch approach. Right. So I hope that answers your question. 2 states of. Say again, I will never entertain outside what is being discussed in the articles. Yes. Any negotiation in a rush to lead to losses. I think India always know when to react, when not. Yes, fine. Okay. So we have to respect the wisdom of the bureaucrats. Okay. So did your clarity of this particular article improved overall? Were you able to see this article in a new light? What he is trying to say when he says Al Qaeda, ISIS? Are you able to see the perspective of what Mr. Narayanan is trying to tell? Do you have any questions which are relevant to UPSC? Again, I hope next. Okay. Yes, fine. I do hope we will discuss more of the newspaper. Yes. This is how you have to understand the articles in a holistic perspective. It will give you some breathing space. I will give you some breathing space. I will share some PDF. For example, if you read this particular editorial, this is about Mr. Chief Justice of India. He said something. He's critical of the government of India. The government of India has passed so many bills, but his pain has an underlying opinion that when you don't discuss a bill properly, if I don't know the intent, I cannot clarify. So we can summarize the entire thing into one line. The one line is, a much refined bill results in a better law and in long run. That is what Mr. Ramana is trying to say. Yes. A bill is there, right? It's very simple. A bill introduced in Lok Sabha, passed in Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, then if the president gives his autograph, which is a signature, if the president gives his assent, then it becomes an act. So from bill to act, all it has to do is go through Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. But this is a very straightforward process. Normally what happens, the bill when introduced in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha is sent to something called as standing committees. Okay, these standing committees will take the help of experts. They will take ground realities. They will debate. Yes, they will analyze. They will talk a lot about it. 10,000 things are done here. Then it is sent to Lok Sabha. A very, very refined bill. Each and every line, each and every statement is discussed thoroughly. Then it comes to Rajya Sabha. Then if the bill has become an act, it will have less loopholes. I will tell you a very simple example for your understanding. You'll understand. If father is there, okay, he have a lot of money and he passed away without making what we call as, what do we call that?
Will, sir.
Yeah, yeah, will. Thank you. So a father is there, he passed away without making a will. Okay, he has a daughter, he has a son. Normally we assume that money should be going to daughter and son in a equal proportion, right? Okay, the government of India has made made a bill which has its own interpretation. Then Supreme Court gave a judgment saying if the will is not made, or if the father had money before 2005, that is the date of judgment, yes, then only then before 2000, sorry, after 2005, if the person has died after 2005, only then the son and daughter will get in a 50-50 perspective. And it took almost 10 years for Supreme Court to say nothing doing, even if the person did not make or die before 2005 also, the son and daughter will get equal amount of money. So what I'm trying to tell you is what appears like pure common sense for us, like 50-50 between son and daughter, irrespective of the date, took 10 years for the legal system to clarify. Just imagine all the hundreds or thousands cases pending in the courts because of that one small clarification before the date or after the date. Okay, such is the burden of judicial system in India. Trivial cases like one feet of my land has been occupied, or my brother took 10,000 rupees extra. So all such idiotic cases are burying the judiciary system. Apart from this, if government makes a bill, right, and if that goes to the court, okay, then Supreme Court is again burdened, right? So that is why we need to have more scrutiny, more discussion towards the bills that are passed. Now please remember, when we criticize government, we are criticizing using empirical data. What do you call as empirical data? That means according to the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha websites, okay, this is the time taken for each bill to be passed. Just imagine, yes, just imagine the time a bill is introduced and passed within 8 minutes, 7 minutes, 15 minutes. Okay, so you can argue that the bill is a very trivial bill. Okay, but the thing is, someone from opposition, again, see, we have, when we criticize the bills are passed so soon, we also have to blame opposition, right? Only when opposition parties are sleeping or just shouting mindlessly, okay, that is when parliament will be able to do, government will be able to all these things. So if they actually bring the government to the accountability, they cannot do all these things. Yes, so I will share this PDF. You can go through them. You don't have to remember anything. Just remember, the thing is very quickly bills are being passed. When there is no accountability, when there is no debate, okay, accountability will come down. When there is no debate, accountability will come down. So if we discuss more, even if it's a trivial bill, it will have some kind of usefulness. I will tell you an example. Let's say there is something called as Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code in India. This is related to economy. You will be reading this in economy. The thing is, government has introduced a bill to reduce the failure of the industry, but more and more cases are going to Supreme Court. Why? There is certain ambiguity within the bill. To reduce this ambiguity, government is passing a bill which may or may not create more ambiguities. Yes, right. That is why the Chief Justice was very upset with this particular bill, I mean particular issue. Okay, you need to know the backgrounds, right? Only when you know the backgrounds, it will make more sense. Yes, so I will end the class here.